Well, if you're one person looking forward to election 2020, you wait for this. There's a new kid on the block. Kofi Koranteng is a Ghanaian in the diaspora who has returned to Ghana as he seeks to contest the next presidential election. He launched his bid this afternoon.
That as an independent candidate, with all your support, we can take back our government. Our Constitution states the principle that all powers of government spring from the sovereign will of the people. At this pivotal time in the history of our country, I want everyone to believe and work towards the goal of expressing your sovereign will by firing NDC and NPP and retaking the government for all peoples of our nation. I can only touch on a small amount of work that needs to be done in this speech as we recapture government from the neglect, corruption, unfair practices of our recent past. I can, on all people, both young and old, who are farmers, market women, fishermen, businessmen and women, street vendors, bankers, teachers, students, and every walk of life who make up the nation of Ghana, join us in a movement to make Ghana the great nation of Africa that it deserves to be. My pledge to you is to surround myself with dedicated experts who will work for the people in a government that is based on transparency, provides an open communications, work for the present as it prepares for the future. I need each of you to reach out to your family, friends, co-workers, and acquaintances to spread the message of Agenda 2020. Together, for the sake of the heart and soul of Ghana, we must fire NDC and NPP.
Firing the NDC and the NPP, I have here in the studio Kofi Koranteng. We'll later on show you a famous clip, perhaps in that you'll remember him. But Mr. Koranteng, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you. You're kind.
So we'll just try and interrogate briefly the manifesto you just put out there today, asking Ghanaians to fire the NPP and the NDC. But first, who is Kofi Koranteng?
Kofi Koranteng chases excellence. I'm a stickler for doing things right. I understand that to do things right, you have to understand the science by which things work.
Okay.
You have to know how things are broken down to the absolute minimalist position and know how to put it together. So the confusion as to why we can't figure this thing out. For 27 years, we have wallowed in the valley of the shadow of death. We came to figure out why Ghana is the way it is after all the resources that we have. So it's because our leaders, so-called leaders, have not really put this thing together in a functional way to be understood. They've made it way too complicated than it is. It's not that complicated.
Okay, so I'm still sticking with you. Who is Kofi Koranteng, apart from the person who's a stickler to getting things done right? What else should we know?
I'm in real estate. I'm a facilitator. I was a former banker. I worked at Chase Manhattan Bank, JP Morgan Chase as it is today. My background, surprisingly, is in mechanical engineering, but I think that I migrated from mechanical engineering to marketing and to banking and finance because of the need for me to do that when I got to the U.S. So that's who I am. That's
who you are. Okay. So take a look at this video. When we return, we'll continue the conversation.
Nobody likes whiners. People that spend all their time whining all the time, I really get on people's nerves. So stop whining. Stop spending, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this, please, we know it doesn't work. So stop whining all the time saying it doesn't work. If it worked, you probably wouldn't be sitting there. So nobody likes whiners, so stop whining. It is not every time you want to make a decision, you have to see the minister, the deputy on every head. What is this thing? Where did this come from? Do you know how many people want to actually sit down and meet the Minister of Labor? Have you been to his office? There's hundreds of them. What is this thing like, I have to see you, give me your cell number? This phone doesn't stop ringing.
You are right. We have the money and we have the expertise. We came here to sit with the decision makers to formulate policy to help us integrate us into the system. Where are the decision makers? You tell me. Where are they? Where are they? They are nowhere around here to listen to us. So now everything we talk about here is going to be second and third class. It's going to be washed out, and whatever is left is going to be passed on to the decision makers. Everybody comes in here and has an attitude that, oh, I got something better to do. Well, if this is the biggest now, if you're a business person and you know that there is a constituency that has the most amount of money and the most amount of expertise that you need into your business to make it work, I would have thought you would spend more time with that constituency to get them to do something. There is nobody here. The decision makers are not here. So we need to change this mindset. And if you would let the president know, this attitude and this arrogance about we are whiners, really? Who travels 3,000 miles to be a whiner? We could have been whiners from our constituencies. We didn't need to come here. So this attitude has to change. If you want to engage us, then be serious about engaging us, because we're not here to play. Thank you.
So that's a very famous video there, Kofi Koranteng. I'm sure that you remember it very vividly. After that conversation there, what happened?
Nothing.
Nothing happened?
Nothing. You know, the idea was it was really painful to see a bunch of us. You wouldn't believe how many people actually reached out to me when I was in Ghana. Every time I come to Ghana, I go to places, people walk up to me and want to ask me the same question. Nothing happened. And that has really been the standard with the leadership that we have.
So let's come back and address the problem.
Sure.
You talked earlier about the inability of our leaders to help us work around this thing. Mm-hmm. What do you think really is the problem with Ghana? Well,
you know, Einstein says it best when he says, you know, you cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that the problem was conceived. To solve a problem, you have to elevate yourself to a higher level of consciousness. Then you can have an understanding of the problem.
That sounds very philosophical.
It's fact.
Okay, break it down.
Okay, and the reason is when you have a bunch of people who call themselves leaders who are triple negative leaders, and the reason why I say triple negative is because they are not competent, they are not functional, and they don't care about their people. They cannot even begin to think of how they can put things together, the infrastructure, the systems, to start to create an environment for their people to thrive in. So our leaders are operating at a very low level of consciousness. And to make it worse, they haven't even begun the conversation into understanding. The first the stage of solving a problem is really first accepting it. Then once you accept it, then you have to elevate yourself from the level where it's the unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence. They haven't even elevated themselves from unconscious incompetence to go to conscious incompetence. So they're in the stage of not even knowing that they don't know. So how do you solve a problem?
They don't know to do what?
They don't know they have a problem.
And that problem is what? Incompetence?
No, that problem is a leadership problem. That's the only problem we have in Ghana.
What if you say leadership problem, that's pretty vague and it's big. Exactly what would you, if as a Ghanaian, expect of the leadership that you're not getting that makes you feel that there is a gap in Ghana's leadership?
Well, first you need to understand a couple of things, because like you said, you're right. It's kind of vague, it's kind of big if you don't understand how the variables come together. Let me break it to you like this. I talk about my 132 predicament. My one out of the 132 is the only problem. Ghana does not have a corruption problem. Ghana does not have a bad roads problem. Ghana does not have an abuse of minerals problem. We don't have a corruption problem. We don't have hospital problems with our health care. We don't have problems with free SHS. You name it. That's not our problem. Those are an adaptive, symptomatic, sociological response to what the real problem is.
And the real problem is?
Leadership. See, if you put leadership where it belongs, everything falls in place. And like I said, the 132 predicament tells you that, you know, the three is a couple of things. And the reason why we have allowed leadership to be the major problem is, number one, Ghanaians have not suffered enough. Because it sounds almost derogatory, but if we had suffered enough, definitely Ghanaians would have revolted by now. The suffering is...
Well, when you say revolt, everybody says we don't need a revolt right now. What kind of revolt are you talking about?
We need a revolution of our consciousness,
okay.
A revolution of the mind,
and how is
a
that
revolution of our intellect.
How is that supposed to happen in your perspective?
Well, the way it can happen is, and if you will bear with me, maybe because you don't have time, the pain, so, and if you work with me here, I really want to understand, explain this so people understand.
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing is, the pain is not, we're not suffering enough. It's not painful enough. The suffering is not painful enough. Because if the suffering is painful enough, there is a reaction. Okay. We haven't seen the reaction yet, so it's bearable at this point. It's uncomfortable, but it's bearable. The second thing is, we don't even know what we want. You see, aside from not knowing what we want, we don't even understand what we deserve. See, if you don't know what you want and what you deserve, when somebody gives you, you deserve a cow, and somebody gives you a chicken, you happy. That's why everybody's jumping around with free SHS, like, you know, manna fell from the sky. Free SHS is not, there's nothing to be happy about.
Why not?
Because you deserve better.
Okay.
You with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you. Like you said, because of time, we'll have to work this around a little bit briefly. But I just want to find out from you. You say you want to be an independent candidate.
Absolutely.
Push out the NDC and push out the NPP. You've outlined these problems. What you say is a problem. It's not about corruption. It's not about lack of health facilities. It is about the people we have in leadership. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. What sort of solutions are you proposing in your bid to be a president of this country?
Well, the first thing we need to do, and we need to understand that to build anything that has the ability to last for a lifetime, you have to do it right. So we need to put together a group of specialists, a group that are physicists, scientists, biologists, ecologists, mathematicians, financial experts, engineers, and you put them together and they craft a developmental plan for Ghana for the next 20, 30, 40 years that nobody could change. We have a situation where any Tom, Dick, and Harry political party comes in and they throw something at us called a manifesto, and they want us to entrust the whole country to them, and they don't have a clue what they're doing. And they dance around all they want, and at the end of 4 or 8 years, they go away, leave us with more debt, and the children, unborn children, have to suffer for it. So when you put a group of specialists together and they map out exactly what a developmental plan is for the next 20, 30, 50 years, then you make sure that it's enshrined in the Constitution that no political party could come in and apply their bogus manifesto to change anything, because the manifesto is just to feed their hungry party agents.
Okay, so I get one solution to the problem, or is that the solution that's like one size fit all.
No, it's
Put
not.
together a team of specialists who create a developmental plan for the country.
And then once you do that, then you segmentate the developmental plan, and then you build systems. You see, the reason why we're suffering is we don't have systems in anything. Now, what are systems? Systems are a behavioral performance mechanism that you install in a process so that it has an ability to know exactly what the end product is. So when you install systems to these developmental plan, when you segment it and you apply systems to it, then the people who are going to be responsible for running the mandates are going to be trained. We don't have a trained leadership. Anybody becomes a minister, they give them a card, they ride around wild, and they go anywhere and they call honorable. And I'm asking you now, if you know of any minister who's gone through performance evaluation to see how they've performed.
The presidency or the government has its own, it has a ministry of evaluation and monitoring that does it, and we're told that they do this.
We are told.
Yes.
We don't want to be told, we want to feel it.
We're told that they do these monitoring and evaluation periodically.
And if they probably did it well, we will have all 100 of them, because we don't know how many, I'm not counting.
111.
Okay, keep the count. But we would have all of them fired by now. Because I haven't seen any change. Matter of fact, the roads are worse from a year, 2 years ago. Everything seems to be going backwards, except for the only thing we talk about, free SHS. But free SHS is not going to be the solution to everything.
Take the NPP administration as it is now. What will be your, I want to do a constructive criticism of the government. Surely they've done something good. Surely they've got some things bad. What is your assessment of the government?
To tell you the truth, free SHS is a good thing. It's a good thing. The way it was done was not done right. The planning was not put into it. And it's littered with holes. And that's why we have challenges. But nobody wants to address or acknowledge or accept. And that's why we're not fixing anything, because everybody wants to gloss over it like it doesn't exist. So you got to understand, the idea into going into these things are good, as it should. But if you don't have people who are competently functional, ultimately these things are not going to be long lasting. And we don't have a competently functional leadership structure. And that's why these guys, they come in and they throw anything at a wall and hope it sticks, and it's not sticking.
What will you have done differently if you were President Akufo-Addo at this time?
I'll fire all these guys I have around as ministers, and because they haven't done anything, quite honestly. See, let me tell you, anytime you say something like that, people cringe because they feel uncomfortable. I live my life based on results. You don't show me results, you out of here. It's as simple as that. If all of these ministers could come around and say, this is my card, this is what I started with 2 and now I'm at 6, then we have a reason to find in that difference of 2 and 6, which is a 4, to pay you and give you the lifestyle that you think you're deserving of. That's not what has happened. Okay, so I'm not just about having people fill positions. I want to get people to be productive. It's about results. We have to see results, and we are not seeing results. So what I don't agree with the current government or any other government for the last 27 years is we haven't been proponents of results.
Between the Akufo-Addo-led administration and the John Mahama-led administration, if you were to assess these two governments, what would you say?
Incompetent twins.
Why?
Because they're both incompetent. See, let me tell you something. This idea that we have to somehow accept that somehow I'm a little better than you, so maybe because I'm a little better than you, it's okay. It's not good. To be good, you have to be outstanding. That's the only standard we have to live by. We're not going to be able to change anything with this attitude that I'm a little better than you. So what? It's not about being a little better. It's about taking care of the people.
What has inspired you to take up this position that you have, to be an independent candidate?
I don't understand why we are failing when we're sitting on this God-given gift of resources, and we have the human capital that we can synergistically put together to build a behemoth global economic structure. And there seems to be confusion, and I don't understand. It's painful. Everywhere around the world you go, and when I see people, elderly Ghanaians, and they trek the Sahara in search of greener pastures. It's painful because this is greener than any pasture I've ever read about around the world. You see, I would not quite honestly have agreed to that if I didn't travel the world. But you travel the world and you find out that, like a great American philosopher said, that at the end of your life, you would come to a point and suddenly realize that all the travels that you have done was to bring you to a place where you started and to know that place for the first time.
I see. What makes you think that Ghanaians will vote for you?
Because I'm telling the truth and they're beginning to feel it.
You believe that Ghanaians like the truth?
I believe that Ghanaians love the truth. What Ghanaians have done is they've been oversympathetic because of their allegiance to political parties. Now they're starting to break away from that because they know it hasn't helped them.
Do you sincerely think that the social psyche of Ghana at the moment is to move away from the traditionally two dominant parties that the country has known over the years? Is that what your assessment of the social psyche at the moment tells you?
Crises brings about paradigms. Crisis precipitates paradigms. So in the crisis that we are in now, there is the possibility that this crisis, we are going to use this crisis to create a paradigm that's going to shift the Ghanaian psyche into believing this is our time to make a move and to change Ghana.
How much do you know about Ghana's political culture and Ghana's political system? How much do you think you know?
If I were a surgeon and you brought in your daughter, God forbid, who had been in a terrible accident to me, and I didn't know anything about your family, didn't know where you came from, all I know is I am good at surgery. It wouldn't matter anything I had to know about your family. All you would be concerned with is how I'm going to be able to fix the problem, and that's what I do.
You agree that that's totally different from running a country?
No, it's not, because it's the same people who makes a country. It's just a bigger organization. It's the same people.
How much are you in touch with Ghana? To what extent? I mean, what would you say to people who say, well, you sound like a privileged person who's not, were you born in Ghana?
Absolutely.
You were born in Ghana. Okay.
I live in Ghana.
Did you grow up in Ghana?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Where don't I know?
So I'm asking because you've got an accent, and you've got an accent, and a lot of people will obviously see you as, well, he's a Ghanaian in the diaspora, he wants to be, they'll tell you, what do you say to those who ask the question, how much do you think you really know about this country? Do you know about the culture, the political culture, and about acceptability of new things as far as the political culture is concerned?
Masa, bibia mo pese mote no, mo mebisa me. Yete Ghana se in the airport krom ha se.
Okay, you have to say that in English. We have an English dominated audience.
Oh, you do? Okay, so listen, I know I live in Ghana. I come and go all the time. I go to Osud Night Market, Blue Rubber, to buy my kinky. Okay, I know all the parts, all the food. I know the cultures. I hang around at Alajo, Abubushi. I do my market at Dansuma. So, and again, you know, politicians use that to try and move people to think one way or the other. Where we need to be thinking is, and this is where we have to think differently, is we are at this point where we want a problem fixed, and we want the person who knows how to fix the problem to come in and fix the problem. And the focus should be geared to the fixing of a problem to give you the quality of life that you deserve. And if we keep the thinking on those lines, then we will make the right decision based on who can give you the most value.
Let me give you an example.
Sure.
About the NPP and the NDC, and about the third force, the third political force that Ghanaians have been discussing over and over again. In every election, we've seen a massive turnout that always is shared largely between the NPP and the NDC. There have been third forces. There have been somebody like Dr. Papakwesi Indum, who Ghanaians say sometimes, oh, he's doing well, he's got businesses running, he's employing people, he's doing well, but he never comes even a quarter to how many votes the two traditional parties get. It looks like, what do you say to people who say, well, he's one of the time wasters, he's just going to waste the time of the Ghanaian voter, just be a part of just join the fray and essentially sometimes get popular whilst doing it?
Like I said, crisis precipitates paradigms. Pakwesi Indum is a totally different human being to me. He came at a different time. The circumstances for when he ran, totally different. Crisis precipitates paradigms. We are in a crisis. Ghana is on a life support, and you have somebody who could fix it. It's up to Ghana.
Do you think Ghanaians haven't heard that before? Because they have.
Oh, but I could, the difference is I could tell you minute to the second with mathematical exactitude how to fix the problem. That's the difference.
What's your track record?
Excellent.
Show us. What is it?
I will. Give me, in terms of...
You can tell us. You can take us through it. I mean,
well,
what is it that you have done before?
Systems.
That
I build systems.
Okay,
I build
tell us
systems
about
for
this.
companies. I built systems for JP Morgan Chase. I built systems for UPS. I built systems. I know how to work with people. I understand the science by which things work. That's the critical thing. I understand the psychology and the science by which things work, and if you do not understand that in great detail, you will never begin to solve any problem.
Okay. What is the one thing that you think you have that's very different from politicians? Would you describe yourself as a typical politician?
Absolutely not. I'm totally the other side of a politician. I'm a fixer.
So you're going to fix Ghana's problems?
That's correct. You're looking at him.
I see. Right, we'll be talking to Kofi Koranteng. He wants to be president of Ghana. He's eyeing the 2020 elections as an independent candidate. I believe you've been in touch with the Electoral Commission and you've had talks with the Electoral Commission.
Ongoing.
Ongoing?
Yes,
Is it going good?
It has to. I wouldn't be here if otherwise.
Well, I'm giving you, do talk to our audience and tell them finally, briefly, why they should make time for you in the first place.
By all means, and I thank you for the opportunity. Folks, we have come to a point in our lives where things need to change. We know things are not going right, but we are so attached to our dear brothers and sisters with NDC and NPP, and we understand the psychology of attachment. But now, this is our life. If we don't do this for Ghana, we're going to lose dear Ghana. And if you take a look at the last 27 years, the track record just tells you that we're going backwards at everything. Look at our roads, look at our hospitals, look at the lives of people. This is when we make a change. We can make a change today in voting for Kofi Koranteng and our independent candidacy, our airtight, functional, competent organization who's going to come in and get this thing done. We are serious about this thing because we love this, and we thank you for the time and opportunity. and we're hoping that you will join us in election 2020.
I'm not sure if I have enough time, but I have a few questions and I have a few thoughts here. This is from Shao Idrisu from Zabzugu Northern Region. He says, how will you manage the economy of Ghana? I'd like for you to note that down. This one says, we're certainly tired of the NDC and the NPP duopoly of the same. But the problem I have with people like Kofi is that they don't come with the arsenal to break the strong front of these parties, but mostly for the popularity dividend and the opportunity to dine on the tables of state authority. From Koshi Badohu Ayivo Denu Jr. I think you've answered this question already. This one says, politics in Ghana has become a money-making pool whereby the rich enter to make more money, no regard for the poor electorate. This idea causes continuous change of leadership. From Zebila from Abraham. I'll just have you, have this at the back of your mind because we've run out of time to deal with it. Kofi, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having us.
Kofi Koranteng is an independent candidate for the 2020 elections.